Okay, we're here. I had the wrong one, man.
You're transitioning wrong.
We were supposed to go to the intro like this, but somehow I messed it up on election day.
Not on election day of all days. That's the great American holiday of every 4 years.
Yeah, I wish it was a holiday. I really wish. No, I wish.
God, should we start there?
I wish tomorrow was a holiday.
I think today and tomorrow need to be holidays at this point. Yeah. I mean, just the way it goes, especially if it's going to be a prolonged event like it was 4 years ago, and like it's sort of sounding like there's a fair chance it will be this year. I hope not. Like I said, I can live with Wednesday morning results. If some stuff takes a little longer, Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon.
Such faith.
Yeah, I can live with that. I'm a compromising person.
Comment down in the comments. Throw it down in the comments whether or not the election is going to be called Wednesday or Saturday, like in 2020. What we were talking about it in 2000. What were the numbers? 2008 was like at midnight.
10 p.m. and 08. Like 2012 was like midnight, and 2016 was like 2 a.m. or something. 2020, 4 days later.
To be fair, like who ran against Obama in 08?
John McCain. That was a landslide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we understand why it's an early call. And who ran in 12?
Mitt Romney. And
that makes sense why it was an early call.
Exactly. And in the grand scheme, 2016 isn't even as late as some had been. I know 2000 with Bush.
That took weeks.
Bush Gore, excuse me.
The thing is that didn't really take weeks. It did technically, but it was just Florida that was in question, and there was a recount.
Yeah, and then they actually ended up going with the original recount anyways, and it was a mess. But
so because it is an interesting discussion of these things taking a little bit longer than what it feels like.
Yeah,
I gotta say though, that makeup that you put on today, it's looking much better than that red tint you normally use.
Yeah, no, it's not as flushed as normal.
Yeah, no, we might have made a fix for his camera finally.
Didn't overdo the blush on it this morning.
Finally, man. We've been talking about that for weeks now.
We figured it out. It just took a minute.
Okay, we got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about today.
Big day yesterday. City Council happened. It feels like it's been just in our world like 2 months since there's been a City Council meeting, but it's just been 2 weeks.
Yes. It's been crazy, and it was a crazy City Council. We have an update on the Dunseith Debacle.
Yeah,
we spent half our day yesterday.
We had some conversations with Mr. Charles Hofer, and we'll talk about that. And, of course, we'll go over some election news, because it is election day.
It is election day.
It is November 5th, Tuesday. Not quite the latest possible day that election day can be on. I think it's, the 8th, technically?
Okay.
And
interesting.
Where do you want to start with election day? We're
going to start there?
Where do you want to start? How about that?
No, I want to start with City Council.
Okay, let's start City Council.
Let's start there. So first off, City Council, it was a great day. We'll do our election day updates at the end, so we can go on forever if we'd like. All right, City Council recap. One huge thing that was on the agenda was the Circle K project. This is something that has been coming up a lot. Mm-hmm. And might I say, Minot is open to development.
Do you think so now? You think this is the nail that will...
People that have been watching Minot and have been saying no because it's a pain to get stuff going. There may still be problems in the process. Who knows? That would take a lot of reporting, investigative journalism, conversations that probably we would not be able to get to be had on record. But what City Council did yesterday says to those people, at the very worst case, City Council will get behind us as long as we are somewhat sensible. There was a lot of work that Circle K did with the engineering studies that they did, traffic studies, trying to prove that it is safe, getting independent. And City Manager Harold Stewart made a great point. You're going and paying people to give you a study. Why would it not fall towards your way? And I agree, Harold. I mean, that's a very good point.
Yeah, it's.
But I
at the same time,
I think that there's also reputation that company has, and if they became a engineering company for hire, then they probably are eventually going to lose a lot of credibility.
At least have some semblance of non-bias to at least claim still.
Right. So very, very interesting deal that happened there.
And the proposed site is kind of, it's right that four-way intersection on the east side of the bypass.
Which is one of the
right
top 25 dangerous intersections in North Dakota.
Yep.
I believe it ranks, it sounded like they said top, number 25.
Yeah, it's right up there. There's been, I think, in the last 3 years, 22 accidents have happened there or something. It was something along those lines. It's a high traffic area.
It's all those people. It's all those diner people, because you got Kroll's on one side and you got Shots the other. They come out of the diner and they're just.
And you got that frontage road. I think is it 21st Avenue, that frontage road that goes down to Tractor Supply and that the walk-in clinic down there. It's becoming a little mini commercial area. All of a sudden
is right
down there. Yeah. And so one of the big holdups that they were having at the end
the big holdup.
It was the only holdup at this point.
It was how are we going to get into this parking lot?
The access point for to turn right into this building, this facility, because it's going to be a pretty large gas station complex, it sounds like. And for sure, so it's going to be set up right next to the highway. For sure, they're going to have an access onto it from that frontage road, 21st Avenue. Mm-hmm. But their big thing was they wanted an access road onto 13th Street.
Right.
Which is the north-south road that it leads. If
got the stoplights on.
Yeah, and if you continue to go south, it leads to the lone roundabout in town.
Right, right.
And
it was determined that a roundabout was not possible.
Not in that area. Yeah.
And so, and as any vote that we feel like we haven't seen yet, we have not tracked every vote. It'd be fun, but we have not. It was a 4-3 vote.
Yep.
We had Scott Samuelson. Yeah.
He voted yes on that one.
Yeah. Scott Samuelson, Rob Fuller,
Mike Blessum,
and Lisa Olson. Opposed, Mark Janser, Tom Ross,
and Paul Pittner.
And now, as we were listening to this come down, we're like, oh, it felt like Pittner was going to be for this. He was asking some questions. I felt like he was going to be on board. He chose not to. And basically, what when his dissenting council members were trying to say is, which engineer are you going to go with, the city engineer or the independent engineer? That was almost an argument that was trying to be made, which is an unfair argument. Mm-hmm. It's an unfair argument.
But that was where...
Why is it an unfair argument, Kyler?
Well, I was going to say that was at least where a couple people were going towards. You had Lisa Olson for sure bring it up. I think Pittner referenced it as well.
Yeah.
But I feel like your point earlier with the engineering firm trying to be non-biased as possible, I think both sides should want to do that. And if they have conflicting reports, that's fine. And also at the same time, they're differing on why they want to accept it.
Yeah, so this is an interesting thing, though, that the way that you made that sound creates an interesting conversation, mm-hmm. and it's an unintentional conversation. It is the city biased? So if you worked from a premise mm-hmm. that everybody has bias, mm-hmm. in politics, it's essentially you work out from that premise, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has a bias. You may try to minimize it, but at the end of the day, there's a certain bias. You did vote for somebody.
Yep.
You're not always like Joe Rogan voting for Stein, whatever her first name is.
Stein. Joe Rogan.
This time he endorsed somebody.
If
Harris was on his podcast, he wouldn't have endorsed anybody, is my opinion.
I completely agree with that opinion.
But does the city have bias? City employees have bias on projects?
I want to say yes, but I don't know if it's an intentional thing.
I don't think it always is an intentional thing. Yeah, the fact of the matter is that they are humans.
Exactly. But it's their baby. It's their project that they've put time and effort into and worked on. So, of course, they will think their idea is the best.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that there's an independent engineering firm mm-hmm. that did a traffic study that said this is the safest route.
Yeah.
So if we can trust their study, then you have the city that said that is not safe.
Mm-hmm. This would not.
This feels like it should be objective. It feels like both people should be able to agree.
You would think, yeah, based on the traffic reports.
Right? Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
So, is there a bias from the independent engineering firm, which we already addressed that? Their bias would be towards money.
Likely so.
If they have a bias, it'd be towards money.
Yeah. And if there's a bias,
and that's not completely fair. They could be so against that bias, trying to cover for that bias, that they go and they
completely against it.
Yeah,
too.
and they
Just
go
to
and
prove
create
a
reports
point.
harder. But I think it's obvious that they didn't do that in this situation. Otherwise, they would have said 21st Street is the way to go.
Yep.
They tried to go and create a good report without allowing the bias to come in, is what they claim. And then you have the city side. And Pike Dogs says the city shouldn't be non-biased. In this situation, the city should be looking out for the safety of its citizens. And I agree. I agree 100% that the safety of its citizens should be looked out for. But this is my argument. Why in the world do we allow alcohol in our town? Why?
I see where you're going with this.
Why? Answer that question. If we're going to be so concerned about the safety of our citizens, why do we allow alcohol?
Sure. That's a point. Theoretically, prohibition should be enacted.
And where does that end?
Yeah,
because you can, and I say that because of what Mayor Tom Ross said at City Council meeting when he became very adamant. This is about the safety of our citizens, as though the other studies just ignored it and said, we don't care about the safety of the cities. We simply want to have it. And hey, I get it. The developer wanted to have it on there. If it wasn't there, it wasn't going to happen on 13th Street. If the entry point was not on 13th Street, it was not going to happen.
Circle K was going to back out.
I get that. Okay. So there wasn't.
If we want it, we have to come to a certain.
Right. And that should not be, we should not change our negotiation to be like, all right, fine, you want that, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
If it's reasonable, it should happen.
Yeah.
But using the safety of the citizens, where does that end? We have kids breaking arms on monkey bars, dude.
Yeah. How long till there's age restrictions on driving, and you make it harder to get your license. You make it, or you have to have automated cars.
Yeah. If we're gonna have,
it becomes a whole Pandora's box that you open at that.
If we're gonna look into the accidents that happened at that intersection, we should look at the age, and because you can't just, why are they happening there? Why is it so common there?
Yeah. It's a thing. Why is this intersection so much worse than elsewhere? Is it a line of sight thing?
Yeah, it's definitely a line of sight. It's definitely some of those things, but you'll also hear about young people having accidents there, and it is a more difficult intersection to navigate.
Yep.
And so
it's a large
you can go and you can say that you can look at that two ways. You need more experience to navigate that, or something needs to be reworked.
Quicker reaction time.
And I would agree. Well done. I would agree that there is a probably fundamental problem with that intersection. But my point is, like, where do we end with the argument of safety, and how can safety for our citizens, and how can that be the stop to every development project? Yeah. We have high air ground where kids are jumping up and having the potential to break legs. Like that is part of what's going to happen with development.
And on the flip side, or on another point on that too,
balance me out, man.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it's balancing, but you don't want to let a company push you into and force you into a situation either. It needs to be situation by situation. You don't want to, and I don't think this constitutes this, but worst case, a company can say, oh, we can tell the city that if they don't do what we want, we're going to pull out and the city's going to take it regardless. Right. I don't think that's a true statement at all. I think the city council had a good enough ability to weigh their opinion on this, weigh the results, take everything into account, and that's why they ended up going through with this, because it's not the company trying to bully us through at this point. It's us making a compromise with this company to get a large business finished and built and put in place.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you. I think it was a very interesting discussion that happened. A
lot of fun comments.
Was surprised by the interjection of Mayor when he mentioned, he was talking about the blood.
Yeah, the blood would not be on the developers' hands who are sitting in Florida counting their money. It would be on the city of Minot.
He called out Tom Coughlin, said Tom Coughlin. New York Giants coach there. John Coughlin said John Coughlin's going to go back to Florida when this is all said and done, and he's going to be paid, and then the blood's going to be on our hands.
Yep.
And
surface level.
That's all right. So I respect what he said. Yeah. There were very strong comments, okay? But I mean, you're saying surface level, of
surface
course.
Surface level of his points, he's right.
But it doesn't matter what development it is. So it's not about John Coughlin.
No, I agree.
It's about any the blood will never be on
developers'
if we're going to look at something that way. The
99% of the time, it's never going to be on developers' hands.
Right. So I think I felt uneasy about those comments personally, but that's
They were
Mr. Moderate chiming in right there.
They were scathing.
They were very strong.
It was, I wasn't expecting it.
Do you feel like the city made the right decision?
I think so. I'd like to think that this. I think that I don't see any reason not to allow it. If there ends up being an even higher influx of accidents happening there, then sure, maybe we can work on mending it at that point. But I think at least in the meantime, in the near future, I think this was the right call.
I think there was a really great point, though. How is the accident going to happen in that intersection?
Yeah, it won't be in the intersection. It would be just south of it.
But think about it, though. The accident is not going to happen on 13th Street. Within reason. It's a right turn lane. People are going to go take a right, and then they're going to take another right. The accident will not happen there.
Not like, that's a good point.
They're concerned about is that there's so much traffic to that gas station that there's going to be a line of cars that's going to go and push it back, which will still not interfere with that intersection. Mm-hmm. It'll just make that spot on the highway miserable.
A lot busier at that point, yeah. It would just make traffic could get backed up onto those frontage roads, possibly. Not saying it will happen.
That was a frustration with the comments that city engineer Lance Meyer was making. Was he kept trying to refer back to the accidents, and it's like, well, there's not a full guarantee. Like this is not fully affecting that intersection.
No, and it wasn't. It was.
I do think it's a good point though. Pike dogs that. The safety of its citizens should be a concern for the city.
I mean, because on the flip side of that comment, if they're not looking out for us, then what are they doing too?
What are they doing? But right. But how does that work? I mean, when you're talking about bias,
this is actually a lot more nuanced conversation. Yeah, at what point do they weigh economic development versus citizen safety?
Yeah, like for real. Because I mean, obviously, I get it. We're going to have places that sell alcohol, and I'm going so far in the other direction that people are going to say my comments are irrelevant. But no, consider it real talk. Where is the line between citizen safety and getting new economic development in town that might incite possibilities of? We got axe throwing in town now.
Exactly, it's fun, but it just shows that, and whatever. You can look at how the city even brings in developers to work on like the Big M building downtown. How if something were to go wrong with that, how do we? Who has the fault at that point? Is it on the?
You're talking about a worksite accident.
It's the development companies at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean that's why the city, within reason, doesn't care what you do in your business.
Exactly.
You just got to get the right permits and you're good to go. Mm-hmm. So that they know about it. But I mean that's why they have OSHA to follow that. And
for sure.
And the roads are of a different concern. And then there's the comments that Pittner makes. Well, safest and best might not be the same in 20 years, essentially. Which is a good point.
And he made a decent point, too, with us thinking back in the past, like what were our predecessors doing?
With frontage roads.
Yeah, making these there. But at the time they made them, it made the most sense. And
yeah. Okay, and I don't hate that argument, but I like solutions. Mm-hmm. So where do you, like, what's the long-range plan then? Because what does work at that intersection? What does work at that?
Do we have to redo that intersection wholly at that point? I know at one point they were talking about adding in a double left turn lane and into part of it to try and alleviate some of it. Obviously, that's off the table for right now, but that was a discussion that was had at some point, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would help or not, but if widening some lanes and reworking that intersection might be the best move, maybe that's the call.
Right.
Unfortunately, I'm not a traffic engineer.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting discussion that happened on Circle K. Moving on, they also had a conversation about some land.
Yeah, for the third time now, this land lease deal with the Mickelson family came back up. So, where it is, should we go over a little backstory on it?
Go ahead.
Okay, just for some quick recap. Few weeks, a month or so back now, actually, this deal initially came up. It was an automatically renewing lease for every 5 years. City Council said, hey, that's a little questionable. Why do these things automatically renew? Let's take a step back here and throw this, take a closer look at this. So we can go forward, see how we want to progress, and then think at the last meeting, Councilman Rob Fuller brings it back up again, or at least attempts to bring it back up, but it has to be brought back up by one of the dissenting votes or the people that voted against it in the first place. So now all of a sudden round 3 comes back up, and now City Councilman Rob Fuller comes to the fourth, and he has some opinions, some comments on it, and some more information to give.
Yep.
So you look at where it's at up on the north side of town, I think.
East side.
East side of town, excuse me.
I think southeast.
Yep, southeast, excuse me. I was thinking of the wrong place there. Nope, it's on the southeast side of town. You look at the quarter of where the lagoons are, and you look at it from a satellite picture, and you can see these little white streaks that run through the neighboring fields. According to Rob Fuller, those are salt lines, alkaline streaks that come. It's not an uncommon thing in the state of North Dakota. There's a lot of salty groundwater in some areas. However, what's likely causing this is leakage from our used lagoons. And so they're leaking over into the neighboring fields, making parts of them, not entirely, but parts of them untillable and unplantable. And so now, who happens to own those fields?
Laverne Mickelson.
Of course. And so now, since
you say that like it's a bad thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. I don't mean it in that sense. No, like of course, it's Laverne. Who else could it be? in the grand scheme of the story that we're going for.
Okay.
I apologize if that came off
I think I'm tracking
poorly. But, so, Mr. Mickelson owns the neighboring land as well as the city's quarter just north of the lagoons that could be made into lagoons in the future, whatever it might be. But he leases that and farms on it. Now the city's going to pull that away. So Rob Fuller says, hey, part of the reason that it's been going smoothly is that in Mr. Mickelson's contract with the city, he's not allowed to sue the city for anything. Well, apparently, if the city were to rescind this, he would proceed or pursue litigation against the city to not just mitigate the land that's been lost so partial compensation, but he would want full land compensation for all of the neighboring quarters. So that would be
lots of money.
A couple $1 million likely,
at least,
that the city would have to be buying from him. And the biggest thing is that this smaller amount of land that the city's leasing out to them is roughly right now, they get about $5,700 a year from it. If they were to put it out onto the market for someone else to bid on to try so they could farm on it, roughly the maximum they'd get with how the market's currently sitting is about $8,700 a month. So,
see, this was like a discussion that we were having. I agree with the input by city council members to make sure we don't have these auto renewing leases indefinitely, because I think that it's not a good look for the city. But also with us sending some of these back to bid, like some of these things are not necessarily everybody just knocking on the door trying to be, I want to lease that land or whatever it might be.
With this, there's a lot more depth to it all of a sudden.
And as the attorney said, like, you guys are kind of looking at a settlement right now. To be fair, it is not all right for Mickelson to always be able to hold that over the city's head. If you ever want to do anything else, I will sue you.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, the city has overexposed himself, and there also needs to be something done in order to make sure that that doesn't happen.
There's got to be some kind of proactivity going on from the city's end at some point going forward with this. Something like they either have to look, like I know the city attorney mentioned that, look at the actual causation of it, like try and do some studies onto what's actually causing this. And also, so on the flip side of all of this, if that ball starts rolling, then we might have to start putting into different kinds of hydrological studies, and that could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then the worst case scenario is when that starts happening. About a month or so ago, I think we mentioned it, but if not, City Manager Harold Stewart said that the EPA is largely trying to push municipalities away from any kind of physical lagoon site and make it so it's more of a process facility. And so if that were to be forced on that would be a project that could be costing tens of millions of dollars, which I'm not saying it's something like it likely will happen eventually, but I definitely don't think it's anything that the city of Minot is needing to be having on their plate at this point.
So in the end,
7-0. City of Minot approved a
let's go ahead and keep it with Laverne. You're good, man. Yeah. Keep on tilling that ground.
Exactly. Go for it. Don't worry about it. We'll take our $5,000 to $6,000 a year and be happy.
So then the last interesting discussion that was had, unless if you think the fact that Yes, the city does have a plan for snow removal again this year. We hope that it satisfies everybody.
It's there.
It's there.
There's like a 20-minute presentation on it.
Check it out. You said it was going to be short, and it was still 20 minutes. But we love you, man. We understand that's a hard presentation to get to.
Hey, the one interesting thing from it, I saw I think there's like 29 miles of city-owned sidewalk in town.
That's crazy.
That was that was a lot more than I anticipated.
That's right there is like when you start unraveling your large intestine. It's way bigger than
exactly. It's without a doubt. It's a similar concept there.
That's terrible. Anyways,
what
city animal shelter.
Yeah, that's right. The pound.
The pound, man. So basically, Minot Bet said, "We're done. We're not doing this anymore.
We're not making money off of this."
Was paying them $47,000 a year. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a lot of money. But come to find out, Starr's Valley Animal Shelter put in a bid that essentially would double their annual revenue because it's a $198,000 bid, essentially. Right? Don't I have that number? Did you check out their profit and loss?
For Starr's Valley?
Yeah.
I did not.
I believe it was in the low 100,000s, but I could be wrong.
I did not look at that. No,
it's crazy, man.
But, and they were the only place that submitted a bid. Yep.
And so then their solvency was called into question. Mm-hmm. Are you guys going to be sustainable? And that was a very interesting discussion.
It was, because it's like, yes, they are.
Sounds like it. Basically, they got a lot of money. Fine. They got a huge donation.
Yep.
And
so they should be fine through like the first of the year.
No, she didn't. She wasn't conveying it very good.
Okay.
In my opinion, what I was understanding her to say,
I know it was a little confusing.
It could be perceived like they have money through the first of the year, and then what? They received this money, and what they've done with it is they've hired a vet, I believe it was.
Yeah, I know they got a full-time vet hired.
And they're upgrading their software and all this stuff. And then at the first of the year is when they anticipate to actually start seeing the benefits of all the things that they have done. They have money to get them past the first of the year, but they're anticipating to increase our revenues at the first of the year. Okay. So then they will be more solid. They'll be more making more revenue as time goes. Mm-hmm. And then obviously they are just got a $200,000 contract with the city. Mm-hmm. So that's going to help.
Yeah. And that's the big thing, because the city was talking about there's some 800 animals a year that the city of Minot
400 dogs, 400 cats. And that's the problem.
Yeah. And apparently as well.
And a few snakes and a couple horses.
Yep. Some random livestock and some random wild animals.
Yeah, but she never said what was going to happen with the exotic animals.
Yeah, I never heard any kind
No,
of.
it was, we take care of the dogs and the cats. Vet clinic will worry about the horses. I don't know what's happening with the snakes.
We'll deal with it when it happens. That's what I took out of that. They'll figure it out when it comes.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
The Minot Vet Clinic had been operating at a loss with that whole endeavor for a while.
Well, I mean, come on. They were doing it as a donation to the city.
Exactly. And
$47K?
They could only do it for so long. Like it's
$47K, man. And it's 4X that now.
Yeah, because the city of Grand Forks just signed a new company to do their pound services for $198,000. The city of Bismarck operates their own through the city, and that costs like upwards of $250,000 a year.
It's crazy.
So it's not a cheap thing. It's
not a cheap thing.
But I
thought you were going somewhere.
That was pretty much all it was heading to.
Okay,
but
sorry.
They pretty much should have that wrapped up, at least for the next year. They'll have be all set with that.
And would love to sit down with the director of the Starr's Valley Animal Shelter. Would love to have you on a Minot Matters podcast.
Hey, there we go. It'll be a fun conversation.
Reach out to us and we'll get that booked. All right.
Any final takes from City Council?
City Council. Well, I don't know. It felt like this one, people were just like, didn't care they didn't care about people's feelings.
Yeah, there was no holds barred with a lot of it.
Yeah, it just felt very real.
Councilman Samuelson had a lot of dissenting votes and some 6-1 votes that didn't go his way. That was an interesting thing.
Yeah. Scott Samuelson's allegedly his yes button was broken.
After that, the first vote, something happened there for a while. I don't know.
I'm teasing Scott.
of course.
It was epic.
It was fun to watch.
No,
it was a great meeting.
One of them was a Renaissance Project one, and he said basically a few sessions ago, he said, I will not vote for yes on those.
On any kind of facade thing.
Yep, because I do not agree with the program.
Yeah, it's a principled stance he took with it.
And I believe, I don't remember what the other no was. Deanne says, can we get some vets together to put on a citywide spay and neuter clinic a couple times a year, do low-cost spays and neuters? It would help so much with the stray animals in the city.
It'd be great. It'd be a great thing to get set up.
So it's an interesting thing to think about, though, how the city brings in 800 animals annually.
Yep.
All right, so if you want to lower the cost of the city, just take care of your animals.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with that, too, so according to the officer that was speaking, I don't remember, was it?
There was Plessis and there was...
Plessis, yeah.
Okay.
Officer Plessis, yeah, Captain Plessis. He was saying of those, so roughly 800 animals, roughly 400 cats, 400 dogs. Over half of the dogs that are recovered from the city are claimed by their owners, and of those roughly 400 cats, only about 29 were claimed by the owners the prior year.
That's fair.
So
that's fair.
There's a big.
Are you a cat person?
I like both. I have no preference. I like dogs and cats.
If my dog ran away, I'd go find my dog. If I had a cat and it ran away, it'd be all right.
You'd put flyers up, but like...
I'd know the city's going to take care of it.
Exactly.
I don't know if I'd put flyers up. I'd put it in my monitors complainers, cat lost, if found, keep it.
Well, Jonathan is a dog person. Oh gosh. Any other takes, City Council, before we move on to the election?
I think we need to figure out why there's 800 dogs and cats. I really do. I feel like that needs to be looked at. Why are there so much?
Why is there so many stray animals?
And then there was a whole deal that Harold Stewart brought up of you going to try to get these animals licensed or the registration, and the vet will say go talk to the police department. The police department will say go talk to the vet.
So like, there's got to be a better line of communication going there.
Better system there. Yeah. They said that one of the officers, president, captains, whatever his title is, official, I'm sorry, I forget, said, we charge something, but it's like a quarter of the cost that we actually pay out. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's great either. Very interesting. But yeah, I guess life will move on. So, and so will we.
We will.
So we're going to go to a quick break. After the break, we'll be back to give you some hot takes.
Hot takes.
And then we're going to jump into some things going on in Dunseith.
Yeah, do a little update there and talk some election stuff.
We'll be back in 1 minute. You can count on us.
In the demanding world of oil and gas, precision, safety, and efficiency are non-negotiable. Unmanned operator drone services revolutionizes how you monitor, inspect, and manage your operations. With cutting-edge technology and expert operators, we deliver real-time data, detailed reports, and actionable insights for our valuable clients. Why risk the safety of your team or waste precious time? Our drones access even the most challenging areas with ease, reducing downtime and enhancing safety across your sites. We take the guesswork out of your projects by offering LiDAR, mapping, and inspection services so that your projects stay safe, on budget, and on time. Unmanned Operator Drone Services, where technology meets safety, precision, and efficiency. Contact us today to elevate your operations. Yes, pun intended.
So,
we're back.
If you want your ad to be there, just let us know.
Contact us. Reach out.
We'll get you set up.
Love to talk about it.
We'd love to talk about it.
I actually watched that whole ad. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, typically we only play the ad when guests are here.
And so we have to do a whole musical chairs act real fast.
Yeah.
I don't have a chance.
This time we didn't, and Kyler was ready to take it back.
I was surprised. I wasn't. My production notes weren't as good as they should have been.
All right, so Dunseith Debacle update. And yes, it is the Dunseith Debacle. And after spending half of my day there yesterday, I would just bold that, put parentheses around it, maybe italicize it. It is for sure debacle going on in Dunseith.
Yeah, it's
there's a few balls that have been dropped, and at this point, there's no way for them to be picked up.
No, I don't know how at this stage, unless I don't see there's a possible way out where everybody just washes their hands and walks away. I don't see how that happens at this point. I feel like
But we just spent a few hours there. And so later this week, we will continue to tease. Later this week on Friday, we're going to be releasing an interview with Charles Hofer, who is the CEO of Hofer Group up there in Dunseith. He just wanted to move to North Dakota and build RVs. We'll talk about why he wanted to do that. And there's a story behind it all.
Saw some incredible things.
And then we'll talk about some of the troubles that he's encountered. Now,
expect this to not just be one episode and one podcast interview with Mr. Hofer either. Expect this to be a lasting series. We haven't for sure nailed down the amount of episodes we're going to include in it. This is a developing thing that we're working on. So keep with us. We'll keep you posted. Make sure you subscribe so you can keep notified about when this is happening.
Turn on that notification bell.
Thursday morning.
Stop by mydakotan.com and put your email in so you can get email updates.
No doubt about it.
Do it all.
Please. Because we will be following this Dunseith debacle here, as closely as we can, and expect Thursday morning, 8 a.m. We're going to be going deep into it. ND Talk.
We're changing Thursday mornings to be ND Talk. This is
Minot Talk on Tuesdays.
Yep, and Thursdays is going to be North Dakota Talk or ND Talk, as we will call it. Why? Well, two reasons. Probably three reasons. One, I'd been wanting to go this direction, because it felt like Thursdays was turning into more of that conversation anyways. Mm-hmm. Two, Dunseith Debacle came up. It's like that's where it fit in great. They just meshed together. Three, legislative session is right around the corner, and that was part of the reason why we wanted to change it to Indie Talk.
So how we do recaps on Tuesdays with City Council, expect legislative recaps on Thursdays.
And also expect conversations that will be happening beyond our live updates that we do on Thursday mornings, such as the Hofer interview that will be released on Thursday. Yep. And it was, like he said, is the episode 1 of a series.
Expect us to have some interviews with other local state legislators over not just the Hofer and Dunseith debacle, but also come legislative session with probably the conversation.
Yeah. And so ideas that we've been getting back on for legislative session, since we're here turning this corner. Actually, one more thing on Dunseith debacle. What about Kramer's comments? So I don't know. We're going to actually play the recording on Thursday.
So last Wednesday, Senator Kramer went on an interview with
Mitchell in the morning, KFYR.
Mitchell in the morning, and for lack of, he seemed like he was very not knowledgeable about this whole situation, and anything past surface level he had no knowledge of. And based on some recordings we heard and some evidence we've seen, I find that hard to believe. Charles Hofer told us that, so according to Charles Hofer, he reached out to Senator Kramer's team last year trying to explain the situation. So that doesn't mean...
To be fair, that's the timeline that Kramer gave. He said about a year... The article's about a year ago.
Yeah, but Senator Kramer also said he never spoke with...
Which he didn't.
What did he say?
No, he said that. You're right. He said that, and he didn't speak to him.
Not directly, but he also... I feel the implications with that were that there was...
That's why senators have teams.
I know. You're right.
So they can say stuff like that.
Exactly, because he can. He himself never did speak.
But the conversations that with Orihans that were recorded makes it really feel like there was a conversation that was had between Hens and Kramer about the situation more recently.
Either
which I don't. You're gonna go down this path.
Not yet. I won't. On Thursday, I will.
Of either this person's not telling the truth, this person's not telling the truth, this person's not telling the truth. We haven't done the investigation. I have no idea. how it plays out. It's just the whole situation. So many questions.
So many tentacles to this whole ordeal. So many rabbit holes to go down. We are going to bring this to you as objectively and hopefully as thoroughly as we can.
Yep.
We're going to try and be... We just want to present everyone's stories. Everyone that has a side in this, we want to present them to you as best we can.
We just like really good stories. That's what we're in the business of telling here at the Dakotan. And so if you have a story that you want told, let us know. We'll talk with you about it.
We'll get around to it.
We might even help you tell it. Hey, I don't know if we'll get around to it. We will expedite it. We'll do our best to get it out as soon as we can.
Yes.
We will not sit on it. unless if it's just something that we're not interested in covering.
But we'll be open with that too.
Yes.
It's not like we'll.
So, Dunseith Debacle, we'll have a full update on that on Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Be sure to tune in.
Make sure
it's gonna be intense.
Yeah, it's. Yes. So it's Tuesday.
Is it hot take time?
Do you want to do hot takes?
Yeah, I want to do hot takes.
All right, go for it. I'll let you.
Because then we can go for elections for an hour if we want to.
Fair enough.
Finally got my arm fixed, which now is too high.
Do you want me to go first then?
Go for it.
All right.
We're going to the green camera.
Oh, it's me. So I have a quick hot take. A little backstory. Minnesota Timberwolves, about a year and a half ago, owner Glenn Taylor announced he was going to sell the team to an ownership group that was largely containing Alex Rodriguez, former Major League Baseball player, and Mark Lowry, former agent and business mogul. So they were going to buy the team for about a little under $1.5 billion. You fast forward time, they were having a little bit of funding issues, but it ended up working out okay. They got former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg to come onto their side with them as provide some extra financial backing. Now you fast forward to this past season, Minnesota Timberwolves all of a sudden are a contending team. They make the Western Conference Finals, and owner Glenn Taylor doesn't want to sell the team. So now fast forward to this fall, and they are now going through arbitration hearings in court where, because the deal was all agreed upon between the two of them. They wanted it to happen. Now the current owner is backing out. So they're currently sitting through arbitration hearings trying to pick a side effectively. And my hot take is, since the deal was agreed upon, I feel like A-Rod and Mark Lowry should probably be the owners sooner rather than later. My hot take, Minnesota Timberwolves ownership, Glenn Taylor, will win arbitration, and he will keep the team to only sell it for more money, upwards of $2 billion.
I got to add something to your hot take.
Please do.
The Wolves will continue to stink.
They haven't stunk. They've been mediocre. They're 4-3.
They could have won a championship.
They could have. They didn't though.
If they had Karl Anthony Towns for another year.
Yeah, you could be right. But they
But
wanted the
after all, they
wanted financial flexibility.
They got the bet. Oh, really? Yeah, because that way they could sell the team and Glenn Taylor can make more money.
You never know.
So how's that team without Cat doing for you? That's the only Cat I like.
They're 4-3. They won last night. They beat the absolutely atrocious Charlotte Hornets, but they're working on it.
Anthony Edwards, that star that you were mentioning, is he still that star?
Yeah, he's hitting the most threes in the league right now of any player. He's volume wise.
And Rudy Gobert, he's getting into many fights.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert's Rudy Gobert. He's a defensive menace. Other than that, he is what he is.
I mean, he got posterized by a second-year player out of Kansas.
And he threw a nice elbow at him. Or I think like a stiff arm more than anything.
My. Must be rough being a T-Wolves fan.
That's why I'm a Lakers fan.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about the Lakers.
Yeah, we don't need to. They lost to the Pistons last night. We don't need to talk
Let's
about that.
go find a good team. What's supposed to happen is you're supposed to have your home state team that is mediocre, and then you're supposed to like somebody good.
Well, that's how it's supposed to work. But hey, the Lakers are competitive. When I became a Lakers fan was after pretty much right when Kobe got hurt, like 12 years ago. Off topic here, but that's when I first started getting into the Lakers. And then right when he got hurt, they were trash for like 6 years. So I had to sit through some terrible Lakers teams before they finally got good again.
They're still not good.
No, well, they were for a couple years, and now they're okay. They're not bad, but they're not good.
They're like a.
They have one of the best 1-2.
You want to know what they're like? I have the perfect analogy.
Go for it.
They're like a McDonald's ice cream machine. They are great to think about, but when you actually need them, you can be sure they'll be broken.
That's fair. I can give you that. That's a good one. Because when it's working, it's fantastic.
Yeah, but it doesn't work when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
When it works is when you look around and everybody has these wonderful ice cream cones. You're like, this is great. McDonald's ice cream machine is working. Then you go up to get one, it's broken.
Broken.
That's the Lakers.
Yeah, pretty much. In the playoffs, it is.
Stu Collom says, we are going to need some bodyguards, referring to Dunseith.
You're probably right, Dad. I won't argue.
Not wrong.
Yeah,
all right.
Right. Dad, you want to do it? Just follow us around all day, please.
Get in a black car. Nah, that's all right.
So, Jonathan, what's your hot take?
Do we want to go to AI first? Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
let's do the AI's hot take.
Your cat doesn't love you. It just knows that you control the heat and food sources. Like that wasn't even provoked. AI just came up with that one. All right.
It wasn't because you didn't put a hot take about why cats are
No.
worse than dogs in there.
No, I told it, give me 5 more without the E. I said, that's how I typed that in
5
there because I
more.
messed up. And it said, your cat doesn't love you. It just knows that you can't control the heat and food sources.
I love it.
And it didn't end there. The only real difference between kids and pets is that kids will eventually tell you how you've disappointed them. I feel like cats somehow are able to convey that too.
Cats judge you.
Yes, for sure.
Plus, cats will also eat you if you die after like a day or so.
Yes, they will. Similar to this one, self-checkout is just a way for stores to make you do unpaid work while they judge you with suspicious error messages.
I prefer self-checkout.
I hate the suspicious error messages. It's so aggravating when it's like, you didn't do this right. It's like, whatever.
Please
you know what I want to do.
your item.
Please.
I did.
Hey, they've gotten
it.
better by that one. People who say age is just a number have clearly never tried getting out of bed after 30. I feel that. My hot take. I actually had 4 of them.
Jonathan was he was trying to narrow it down.
I was trying to come up with ideas. These are so hard to come up with, believe it or not.
I said on mine about 30 seconds before we went live.
Yeah.
That was
I already said one of mine. I already said 2 of mine.
So go
We're
go
going
ahead.
with the third one.
Take the soapbox.
So my hot take is going to be a little bit different today. It's not necessarily a hot take in that it's going to be surprising and cutting edge and you're going to go home in deep ponderance. It's simply a message to those that are listening to this podcast. Today's election day. You should definitely get out and vote. I encourage you to do it. But one thing that's been so frustrating to me about politics over the last many years, since basically I've been alive and I've been involved in politics, is how divisive it's become. How you judge me based off of who I vote for. And I judge you based off of who you vote for. How unfair is that? It was never intended to be something. Voting was never intended to be something that would make or break friendships. It was never intended to be something that opened up doors for you and closed doors for you. And yet that's where it is now today. And I understand that politics will always be politics. But somehow in the day and age that we live in, it has become a game of 2 bitter rivals that hate each other. And I use the word hate intentionally because one side says, this is the way it's got to be. And if you don't agree with me, we can't be friends. We can't show up to the same Thanksgiving dinner. We can't go to the same event. We cannot do these things together because I simply want a different person as president than you. Now, I don't know. Maybe the end of the world will come based off who has voted into office, based off the results of today. Who knows? But if the end of the world was to come, we're going to need each other. And so my hot take is simply a call for us to get back to being American again. Get back to sticking up for one another, realizing we are all on the same side, even if we have different ways of going about it. I'm not somebody that I believe that there's a right and wrong in the world. I do. But I don't think it should be to the point where we have to worry about relationships and things like that. So that's simply my hot take, a little bit different maybe than what typically the hot takes normally are.
I think it was a fantastic call.
I think it's very relevant.
It is, especially today.
It is.
Being the exceptional Americans that we are and
Let's just
trying to be better than the fold.
Get back to being that. North Dakota, maybe it doesn't affect us the same, although I feel like it is starting to affect North Dakota too. I feel like it is.
It's trickling in.
There is a pull on people to win. They hate losing. Mm-hmm. And that it feels like that drives people more than what the voters just simply want.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. It's just the fact that you being wrong and losing is worse than
right. So like all October, what's the joke about October election year? October surprise, right?
Yeah, always going to be
And so
something.
people go and look, and I believe that a person running for office should have good character, mm-hmm. but people look for stuff to destroy character and hold it and wait on it until it will have the most influence on whether or not they can be elected or not.
Yeah, that's
so. Are you really running on policy?
Doesn't seem like it at that point. It seems like you're just running on beating down the other person
You're just trying to beat down somebody else.
to make yourself seem like the better candidate.
Right.
And
And
not
how
it
is
should
that
be.
good for America?
It's not.
What a hot take. All right. Moving on.
We are where we are.
So, election day updates. Probably no crazy polls for North Dakota.
No, unfortunately not. No one went around did any last second North Dakota polling. It's not
I
shocking.
have heard, though, that there's a crazy amount of people getting out and voting.
Yeah,
And
without
even
a
North
doubt.
Dakota. In North Dakota, even.
Yeah, no, I think I'm pretty sure Secretary of State came out a day or two ago, said it was the most, or no, it was for Ward County had record early voting turnout.
Okay.
I saw that.
So, I think this is something that Republicans should pay attention to because I think what may happen to Republicans, not this year, but
in the future,
a major election in the future, is they could potentially get complacent because Republicans going to win North Dakota
of course,
for the president, and
Of course.
and
everything else, right?
and it'll become a little blue state one year, and then they'll wake up because you always wake up after the problem. You don't wake up before
Largely, that's how it works, without a doubt.
with stuff like that.
And,
Yeah.
You know, to the best of my recollection, the closest North Dakota has been to voting Democrat since 1964, which was the last time we did, obviously.
As for president,
Yeah. It was 2008 with Barack Obama.
that's crazy.
And it was like,
well, that makes sense.
it was still like a 8-point gap or something, which,
Crazy.
not
One day it'll
close,
just
but-
happen.
gosh, that'd
Honestly, it may not happen, but it can happen at the
It could.
Senate.
It has-
Senate.
yeah.
That'd be where it would happen first.
would be a statewide politician where all of a sudden they win by like a half a percentage point and people are shocked and they can't imagine how it would have happened. And
All right. So I'm gonna move on because
move on. Where do you got to?
we're killing that subject. 7 North Dakota legislative races you should watch. This is brought to us by North Dakota Monitor. Something to pay attention to. Number 1, District 10, and this is we've talked about this a couple times. This is where there is an unusual case of some Republicans supporting a Democratic candidate over a candidate from their own party, the Republican Party. So weird things going on in District 10.
It was really weird because he's working with the Senate the Republican that's running for Senate, but not the other Republican that's running for the House, and he's
Yep.
backing the Democrat that's running for House, but not the Democrat that's running for Senate. It's just a really
It
really
is
odd situation.
Strange. There's 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat fighting for 2 House seats. Republican incumbent Steve Swintek is not working with fellow Republican Jared Hendricks, as you just said, to try to unseat Democrat Hamida DeCane. So, interesting race to pay attention to. If you're curious of what to pay attention in North Dakota, pay attention to District 10.
That's one for sure. It's going to be a close one. One of those swing districts, swing counties in the state of North Dakota.
District 46, a political action committee, Brighter Future Alliance, which is led by Republican Pat Finken, has targeted incumbent Republican Representative Jim Casper as being too extreme on the party's right wing.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's also a district where 2 incumbents, father and daughter, Senator Jim Rhodes and Representative Shannon Rhodes,
They're both-
Jones, did not run for re-election.
Yeah, okay.
So you have Casper, who is being too extreme on the party's right wing, and Desiree Morton as the Republican candidates for the House seats. Todd Reisenauer and Will Thompson are the Democrat candidates for House. And then Republican Michelle Powers and Democrat Jess Arnson are competing for the Senate seat. So District 46, another one that could be interesting to see how it plays out. District 42. District 42 is an interesting one. This is over in Grand Forks.
Okay.
Republican Emily O'Brien seeking re-election to the House. One of her constituents is questioning whether she really lives in the Grand Forks district.
Just based on the interesting lines that the Grand Forks' districts are drawn into, it might she may no longer be residing in
Who
the
knows?
district. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
some questions. There was also some other crazy
Yes.
allegations that were thrown around in some Grand Forks races over the weekend.
Yep. The Senate race has Republican Claire Corey, who pleaded guilty to reckless driving in July. And then there are the Democratic candidates, Sarah Grossbauer and Carol Hagan. And Grossbauer is the one that had crazy allegations brought up with said picture and somebody holding it for an October surprise.
Yep.
For an October surprise. Why?
Yeah,
because that's the whole point is if they're still doing well, let's try to destroy them.
And also, the person that took the picture that was in the bathroom.
Well, I mean, they were there. They
claim they didn't partake. I can't say anything.
He doesn't believe
I wasn't
them.
there, but yeah, come on.
Oh, yes. And then you have District 18, which is also in Grand Forks, made news when the Democratic MPL challenger filed a police report against Republican incumbent. Kyle Thorson filed a report on October 22 after getting what he felt were threatening messages from Senator Scott Meyer. Meyer apologized to Thorson, said he'd been drinking before looking through Thorson's Facebook post about the campaign. That right there is a quick summary. It probably doesn't do it justice of the whole thing.
There's a lot more depth to that, great summary.
Was some pretty intense messages that were sent one way.
Yeah.
Whether there needs to be an actual restraining order put out,
different.
Who knows? But definitely some not ethical things being done there by the Republican candidate.
Getting a little liquored up and scrolling through Facebook maybe ain't the best
It's
move.
never the best move. Scrolling through Facebook is never a good move.
In general, you're right.
It is just bad.
It's not the move.
It is not worth it.
I agree. It is a great time waster.
Yes. District 2, friend of the show, Mark Inget, running. 4 years ago, no Democratic MPL challengers to the Republican candidates. One time, we're going to have to do a podcast about what the Democratic MPL party used to be, what the MPL party used to be.
I would love to talk about what the NPL used to be.
Yes, because it's attached to the Democrat Party in North Dakota, but it is not the NPL anymore.
No, the NPL is the non-part. Oh, we don't have time to go into this, but
we got the rest of the day.
The NPL used to be. It's the nonpartisan league. It used to be a group of independent, largely farmers and agriculturalists in the turn of the 20th century, early 1900s up to the 1930s. They would go on to both. So they had. They're populists, and they were behind agriculture as their big deal. So they would all get together, and they would try to find out the big policy points that they want to identify, and the things that they want to push through and get done, and how they want to affect things. And so they would have their own NPL meetings, and they would set up candidates to run for both the Democratic side and the Republican side. So you're going to have people that are running for Democrats and Republicans that are both nonpartisan league people. And you come in the 1930s when post-Republican era, in the 1920s when the big boom happened, and the 30s roll around, the Great Depression happened, and that's when the NPL formally attached themselves to the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, it's just been...
I was going to go for a walk because I feel like you might be a while.
Yeah, you're right.
I almost went and got some candy.
He was contemplating it.
I did. But then I was like, he might run out of stuff to say. Probably not, though.
I could have talked about Bill. Oh, gosh.
For a long time.
So in the 1930s, there was a... I know.
There we go. We're going to do a podcast. We'll do a podcast on it, okay,
so
man?
We had governors impeached, and it was
so crazy. We'll have to do a podcast on it.
For like 2 weeks.
Anyways, watch out for District 2, Northwest North Dakota. Is only notable because they're actually contested races. Republican Mark Inget faces Democrat Rosemary Tanberg in a race to replace David Rust. House races are Republican incumbents Bert Anderson and Donald Longmuir against Democrats Betty Duvetter and Jean Nygaard. There you go. District 24, another one to watch. Republican state Mike Wabima won by 2% points in the 2020 election. This year, his challenger is Newt P. Jovic. He could be a basketball player.
I like that. That's a North Dakota name.
The House incumbents are Republican Dwight Kiefert and Daniel Johnston. Johnston's son, Damian Johnston, was recently charged in connection with entering the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th riot in 2021. Daniel Johnston said his son got swept up in a crowd. Democratic challengers are Sean Lawson and Nancy Farnham. To be honest,
that's one of the most contended races in a district that's not normally contentious, if I'm not mistaken. Where the Senate and the House is both
No, District 2 would be.
Oh,
District
excuse
24
me. I was okay.
won by 2%. The Republican
enough.
candidate won by 2 points in 2020 election. So that's actually a tight
that's
race.
a very, very contested district. You're right.
So that leads us to the next story, which really isn't election day coverage, but former North Dakota young Republican agrees to plea deal on January 6 charges. This was written by Jeff Beach of the North Dakota Monitor. And that is Daniel Johnson's son. Dan Johnson did say that his son got swept up in a crowd. So to be fair, if you're at the rally, which was supposed to be a peaceful rally, that's a whole nother discussion that we really don't need to jump into. Things start going crazy, and people start going into the Capitol. Yeah. What do you do?
Probably follow, right? I don't know.
I mean, you're going to go into the Capitol.
That's right. You're going to see some cool stuff. And all of a sudden, people are carrying stuff out and throwing stuff.
Then it's like, okay, this is not it. This is not why I'm here. I'm not about that.
Yeah, but all of a sudden, as soon as you go in, you're implicated.
Yeah, and you didn't see that coming.
No, that's the thing.
2020 vision would say, and I was trying.
Pun intended?
It was not intended. It was like that's what you're supposed to say there. Okay.
Hindsight is 2020.
In hindsight, I would not suggest you doing that.
Yeah,
it's a terrible idea. Why would you ever think about doing that?
But
honestly,
mob mentality.
I probably would not do it.
You're a good person.
But I could see myself get swept up in a crowd. I could see myself.
My thing is, I don't think I would have been there in the first place.
I wasn't there actually.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I was far enough, old enough to have been there. I wasn't. I don't think I would go to something like that. However, if I did, and circumstances played as they would, I wouldn't have been shocked had I ended up in the Capitol as well.
Yeah, I have a great fear or respect for authority, and I'm gonna go with I don't think I would have done that, unless I'm not saying I'm above peer pressure. There is a chance, but I don't know that I would have.
It's not great.
If I would why? This is my question. Mm-hmm. Why did they start heading towards the Capitol? At that point, it becomes a little bit of a mob mentality, right? 100%. And that's where I'd be like, I ain't about this. Mm-hmm. This isn't me.
It's a great. I don't know. There was a ESPN 30 for 30 documentary.
Well, that's got to be accurate.
It was about after the 2011 riots that happened in Vancouver after the Vancouver Canucks lost the Stanley Cup Finals.
Okay.
And they burned a lot of the city, and a lot of people that got charged, they ended up finding them and interviewing them over a decade later. And so much of it was, I was a young kid. I was dumb. Everyone else was throwing bricks at stuff. I thought I'd go in the building and grab some stuff too. I just happened to get photographed and prosecuted.
Messed up, yeah.
It's one of those things. It just shows that mob mentality is real.
Plea agreement that Damian Johnson agreed to says that nearly $3 million in damage was done to the Capitol on January 6th of 2021. Ooh. And for his role, Johnson agreed to pay $500 in restitution. So there you go.
Okay. Fair enough.
This is another one for the North Dakota Monitor.
Completely random. I wonder if he still lives in the state.
He doesn't. He lives in Wisconsin.
Fair enough. I love it.
Yeah, I did my research, buddy.
You were.
I was ready for that one.
We're ready on that.
Each count has a maximum sentence of 6 months in prison and probation of not more than 5 years and a fine of not more than $5,000. Who knows what will happen?
Yeah.
Election day is not a results day. Get ready for a wait to find out who's president. That election day is not a results day is a quote.
From who? Whom?
Well, that was said by Quentin Turner, the Common Cause Michigan executive director, during a You don't know who that is?
Off the top of my head. Maybe I'd recognize the face.
You don't. But definitely in the know of what's going on in politics.
Don't doubt that.
Basically, what the Jen O'Malley Dillon, she is the chair of the Harris Walls campaign, said is the campaign, the Harris Walls campaign expects on election night to have near complete results for North Carolina, Michigan, and Georgia. Mm-hmm. Partial results from Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Arizona.
What about Nevada?
Mention it? Wednesday and beyond, we expect additional results from Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada.
Okay. So
she didn't mention Nevada before. So, question to you is: if we had near complete results for North Carolina, Michigan, and Georgia, and let's add Nevada in there, who wins? Can we call the election on tonight?
There's a chance that it will end up happening. It's going to be really hard, and you're going to have people that don't want to call it regardless. So if we have Georgia,
dude, you want to know something? I interrupt you real fast.
Go ahead.
But there's a poll that I've been tracking. No, there's a site. It's vtnews.ai.
Okay.
They have some they don't report on stuff. Essentially, they don't report on stuff, but they do take a conglomerate of everything else that's going on. They've been saying it's been Trump like leading in the polls until today. He's been up 0.8% in the polls.
Now they're saying it's...
And now it's Harris 0.4.
Wow. It's a half-point shift.
All right, so if North Carolina went red...
Georgia went red.
And what's the other one?
You said Nevada?
Nevada, and I think Michigan, right?
You think Michigan's going to go red or blue?
No, we're just putting them all red.
All red? Okay, then theoretically, if all those states went Trump, he'd have 272 electoral
Okay, so that'd be
votes.
basically the only way that it gets called tonight.
Yeah.
And I think that if they all went blue, it can't get called tonight.
I think it would be...
No, it can. It can.
I think it would be close to the same.
But there would have to be a sweep in all of those states, which would be crazy.
And in places like Georgia and North Carolina, yeah, they're going to be close, but I feel like those ones are going to end up going red.
Yeah, I think North Carolina for sure.
Yeah, like it's obviously it's went blue in the past and it's trending blue, but I still think we're still a little ways away from that being a more full-time thing.
Yep.
4 years from now, different ball game, but I still think yeah. I think Pennsylvania's where so much is going to hinge on tonight. It has 19 electoral votes, and it's been one of those places where it's been dead even for...
Where does Wisconsin go?
I think probably leans blue.
Okay.
I would go just based on polling numbers. I would say blue. Michigan.
Interesting, because the poll that I'm looking at has Trump up there. So based off of Atlas Intel, Insider Advantage, Emerson, Rasmussen reports, and the Trafalgar Group, I don't know, Wisconsin, it would be 0.8 to Trump.
Real Clear Politics has Harris up by 0.4 points in Wisconsin. So that's the margin of error is 5% effectively. They're going to say it's smaller than that, 2 to 3, but really it's 5%. So you have anything that's smaller than 5% gap, tight. You have no idea how it's going to play out.
Michigan most likely is going to go. Well, which way is Michigan going to go?
I say I would lean blue, but again, I wouldn't guarantee it by any stretch. Like looking at, here I'll pull up, so 538, which is a little bit more left-leaning. They have Harris up by a point in Michigan. And looking up on RCP, they have Harris up by a half point. So I would probably lean Harris just based on that polling. But
here's a question for you then.
I don't trust polls either.
You have a prediction on how the Electoral College will play out?
I have Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada falling to Trump. I have Wisconsin and Michigan falling to Harris. So
and this is the first time in forever that Nevada would go red.
Since 2004, I believe. Either 2000 or 2004. And I have that holding. So right now that would have 268 to 251 with Trump leading, and that all hinges on Pennsylvania.
What about you were right, except New Hampshire did a little flipsies?
That would be wild too. That would be...
Because people have been saying that New Hampshire potentially could be in play. Now it's probably a little bit of a stretch, but...
But on the flips, New Hampshire's a very independent thinking state, and they have a lot of. I've never been there, so I can't say specifically. But from everything I know, you look at their governor currently, Chris Sununu. He is a very staunch anti-Trumper, but for the large part, New Hampshire hasn't voted Republican on a national stage since I think 2004 or 2000. Same thing as Nevada since Bush was president, and they've had a largely Democratic state delegation for Congress and Senate. And now you have a former Republican senator running for governor there, Kelly Iotti, and she is barely pulling ahead of the Democrats. I think it would be incredibly interesting to see New Hampshire flip. That, in my theory, say New Hampshire flips, that gives Trump the win regardless of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. That would be crazy right there.
That would be an incredible...
Or his long shot, what he really hopes happens is that Trump and Harris split Maine. That's what you hope. You hope that your prediction is true, except that Trump and Harris split Maine.
No, I don't want that.
So then it's 269,
I don't want that. I don't want that at all.
Why not?
You know the mess that would play out?
What happens next?
So after that, it goes to the it goes to Congress to be decided. It's only happened once in presidential history, 1828, when John Quincy Adams was chosen the president over Henry Clay, Andrew Jackson, and the fourth gentleman that isn't relevant. I think Henry Clinton. Anyway,
what'd you say?
No, George Clinton. Excuse me.
George Clinton.
Yeah.
There's always been a Clinton.
Yeah, exactly. He was the former governor of New York back in the day.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and of course, right? It's perfect. But it would go to the House of Representatives, and it would be the newly elected House. So, however that plays out,
And right now that's red.
it's red, barely.
Yeah.
And so, would it stay barely red, or would it
Right.
turn barely blue? So all of a sudden, that's how a lot of it's going to play. But then it goes down to the states to decide. So every state gets a vote, and it becomes a mess.
Yeah, it does.
And who knows?
Zach Rackner mentions, what do you guys think of the Seltzer Iowa poll? Really good track record, but that's a tough sell as a result. Yeah, that was crazy to come out.
Yep, she just dropped it
Over the weekend?
like Saturday or Sunday, and it was
+3 to Harris.
Yep, and Iowa is been trending red the last 8 years, but also Iowa was a flip state for the Obama administration.
Yeah.
In 2008, they pulled it blue, and then I think 2012, Mitt Romney barely won it. And she's had a lot of great predictions in the past with that poll. It's been accurate in the past.
And that's weird. That's what's really hard, is that you really think that she did something nefarious, if you would. And nefarious is very strong, but you understand my intent.
The point, yeah.
To go and try to persuade people that actually things are going to be trending in Harris's direction across everything with that one poll, and base her whole track record on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Trump wins by 10 points in Iowa, then people aren't going to believe her poll again.
Yeah, that's fair. But however, if all of a sudden it's a tight race.
Yeah, if Trump wins, and I say Trump wins because it plays to my point, if he wins by 1 point there, then you're like, oh, okay, that hurt. She was actually pretty close.
Yeah.
So it would keep her credibility intact.
Yeah.
And obviously if Harris wins, then it's like she was spot on, always listen to her.
Doing, yeah.
So
and you look at Alan Lichtman as well. He has an 11-point prediction that he's come up with, and he's gotten all but I think the 2000 election right since like 84 or 88. And I think he predicted Harris this year, but he also releases his predictions at like the beginning of October, which is a little
very early.
Yeah, a little interesting in that.
Yeah.
Take. And so
Yeah.
it's going to be an incredibly close election.
I thought it was interesting, and really, honestly, I don't trust really any of the stuff that I've seen, and that's partly because I'm not knowledgeable enough, and two, it just feels like the polls are a little bit of luck.
Oh, so much so. I mean, 8 years ago, if you based on polls, Hillary Clinton would have won in a landslide. 4 years ago, I think Trump would have won if you looked at polls. I mean, no, Trump would have been closer.
Would have been close.
Biden would have still won.
Yeah.
Biden still won the key states.
Right, and so then they go and they talk about these Trump always does 5 to 6 points better. I don't think that's going to happen this time, honestly.
Yeah, I think I would like to think that after the last 8 years of dealing with Trump polling all over the place, pollsters have finally found out a better solution.
But I don't know that they can, because basically the point with Trump is that they just don't say that they're going to vote for him.
That's true. That is a very frequent
nobody
thing.
wants to admit it.
Yeah.
But I just think that people at this point are more vocal. Mm-hmm. I think at this point it's big whoop. So I think that they're more likely to. So
That's
there
true.
might still could be a point or two, but honestly, I wouldn't. I stand by what I said. It's going to be a landslide.
One way or the other.
It will be a landslide.
Fair enough. So it's either going to be,
which means that it has to get over 300. Like the one candidate has to get over 300 electoral college
So it
votes.
would
That's my
either be
understanding of a landslide.
Trump with 312 to Harris's 226. That's if he wins all of the swing states. Or if Harris wins all of the swing states, it would be flipped on its head, and she would have more 319 to Trump's 219.
Right. But she could even have at 306.
Yeah, and you throw a stage one way or the other. But
nonetheless,
yeah, both of them have very.
It's going to be a landslide.
There's Jonathan's pick. I think it's going to be very close. I gave you my states. The only one I'm not going to call is Pennsylvania. I don't know.
The only thing that makes sense about what you say is just based off geography. You're basically saying all the northern states are going to vote blue and the southern ones are going to vote red.
Sun Belt's going red, and the Rust Belt's staying blue, exception Pennsylvania. I don't know.
But I just see it happening like it did last time, where everybody is leaning one way. We just don't know which way.
It just happens. Yeah, it's going to be.
And it's by a small margin.
Yeah,
it could be
close,
it could be tighter than yours.
I wouldn't doubt it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because
by all means.
the votes that actually separate could be tighter. So obviously,
could be on, close to Florida's 537 in 2000.
Yeah, no, not that close. So you said that you feel like Trump or Harris is going to win. Basically, you alluded to that. Essentially, if
it's going on trends with the blue wall and the Rust Belt, she would have right now. She'd have 270 to Trump's 268 if she won Pennsylvania.
Right. So
if Trump
who's going to win the popular vote?
I think it's going to be closer than it has been in. Well, I mean, the Republican hasn't won the popular vote since 2004, so I think it's going to be as close as it has been since then. I don't know if Trump will win the popular vote, but I think it's going to be the closest popular vote election we've had since 2004.
Yeah.
I maybe like 47% Trump, 48% Harris, minor parties picking up the rest. But she's probably going to get it just because she has those big cities that can just pour in so many votes. But I think, again, this will be one of the closest popular vote elections we've had in 20 years.
I agree.
Who do you think is going to take the popular vote? The easy play is saying Harris, but...
That's the easy play. But I'll go with potentially unpopular. Or not unpopular, but I'll go with harder than that. I'll say that the popular vote will go with who wins. I think that stands with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, and basically that's saying it's going to be a tight race.
Mm-hmm.
I think in order for that to actually happen, Trump is going to have gotten votes in blue states. And he's going to have gotten votes in New York and maybe even California in order for that to actually play out.
Sure.
Because obviously 80,000 votes isn't going to win him the popular vote.
Yeah, no, not at that point. That's
so he's had to do some work there, which I think is possible, but I still don't know that he will win. Zach says, Jonathan echoed exactly how I feel. I do believe pollsters are hurting a close race to not look silly. I think it'll be decisive one way, not sure which.
I think that's a great take.
Yeah.
I
think so.
It'll be like 2020, just one way or the other.
I think that people are more motivated to vote this time around than they've been in past years.
It feels like
and
it.
I would go so far to say, and I don't necessarily have data to back it up, so I could be wrong on this.
I just thought of a good hot take.
But I think that does play more for the Republicans than the Democrats if people are more inspired to vote.
I think that's a great, I think largely. I think typically, at least in the last 20 years, Democrats have higher voting turnouts. They have better get out the vote plays. However you want to look at that, it's typically how it's played out. So if you have a higher voter interest and you can get more of those independent or Republican voters out there, that should theoretically play into their hand.
So I think
that theory
is going to help them, but
you think North Dakota has record turnout this year?
Yeah, I do.
I think I was thinking, because that'd be a good hot take, but all of a sudden, more I've thought about it. Like, we already had record early voting. Would it be a hot take?
I was seeing pictures this morning of Bismarck having
massive
tremendous lines. And they were saying that this doesn't happen.
No, not
and
like this.
That's where I want to be. And I don't know why. Why?
Like, is it just the presidential election that's drawing that many people out to vote in North Dakota?
It could be. Is it the measures? Are the measures that powerful?
Are measures 2, 4, 5 that big on people's minds?
No, it's 4 and 5.
Sure, yeah.
It's 4 and 5.
4 and 5, yeah. Speaking of that, I think 3 texts this morning talking about Measure 4. 2 telling me to vote no, 1 telling me to vote yes.
I didn't get any.
I got at least 2, if not 3.
Why do you sign up for all that stuff?
I signed up one time like 2 years ago, and here I am.
You done messed up. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
It will.
We're not going to be offering live coverage on this because at the end of the day, we assumed you don't really care. You don't really care what we have to say tonight.
You're probably going to go watch Fox or CNN or NBC.
Or some other national podcast that's going to be having their election night special. And so we understand that.
It's
and
fine.
We respect it.
But if
we said, have a good night. Enjoy yourself.
Unless by some miracle, something so outrageous and crazy happens that we just have to come live.
It would be very outrageous.
I don't know what it would even be, but it would be something just so nutty that we can't even contain ourselves.
Though, that being said, as results come in, we do intend to be posting updates on our website, mydakotan.com, and we'll be posting those to Twitter as well, or X. So
So be sure to follow along.
That's where we'll be posting our updates. Look, it's going to be a fun time tonight. And I stand by what I said earlier. Win or lose, let's just be friends when it's all done.
It's all good.
Realizing that if your end did go and say win it all, if your feeling is that when one side wins, it's going to cause the rest of the world to burn, we'll need each other.
Without a doubt.
We'll need each other. So we need to be friends.
World War
no
III
matter what
happens. We gotta be ready and stick together.
One side's going to cause that. We're going to need to stick together. So let's be friends through it all. Zach says, sounds like y'all should come out, hang out at the spot. Should come hang out at the spot for our party. We will have a large projector screen with the Indy Secretary of State's results updating. Sounds like a good time at the spot. There you go, man.
Spot's fun. We got pool tables and stuff. And
yeah, it's a good time there.
You going to swing by?
I have, sadly, a commitment from 6:30 to probably like 8:30 today.
Fair enough. You're busy. It's fair.
But I guess that's not even when results start updating.
Yeah, polls close at 7, so by 8 is when first results are going to start coming into the Secretary of State's website. Maybe I'll swing by, say hi. I don't know. I'm not doing nothing, I don't think. Maybe I'll come say hi, see what's going on.
Exciting stuff, man.
Where's the Republicans one at? There's
Well,
one in Bismarck.
Yeah, there's
the
party
Minot one.
I'm sure there is. I don't know. I've not heard.
See, look at that. We got an invite from someone at least. But
come on, that would be a fun time. Zach?
No,
and
that wasn't a shot at Zach. Sorry, that was a shot at the other side for not mentioning anything to us.
For real, Zach. We'll reach out and get you on. We haven't forgotten about that. We'll have you on probably by end of this month. So if it works out, so we'll reach out to you this week. All right, sounds good. Anything to add?
I think that was a fun episode. Hour 20 on election day. We got city council in, got some election takes, little Dunseith debacle updates. It's been a great episode.
Dunseith is epic, man.
Oh, I can't. What are we getting into?
Well, sounds like some person said, or not some person, but one idea is that we should get bodyguards. So that kind of tells you what we might be getting into. All right. Thank you for watching this episode of Minot Talk. Be sure to tune in this Thursday, 8 a.m. for Indie Talk, where we'll be talking about the Dunseith debacle. Probably have some election updates with all that, and be looking forward to whatever else might come.
Look forward.
Thanks for watching. Have a great election day.